So I recently had to deal with something no man should ever have to. A group of fake enforcers rolled up on my ranch and tried to seize it. Their excuse? Some made-up zoning violation tied to an HOA that didn't even exist. But here's the twist. The ones who got shut down in the end? It wasn't me. It was them. Let me take you back to how it all started. And while I do, let me know where you're listening from today. Curious how far this kind of story travels. The first time I met Greg Falk, I thought he looked like a guy who failed his police psych eval and decided to take it out on the world. One HOA citation at a time. Clipboard death gripped. Windbreaker zipped to the neck like it gave him jurisdiction over the sun. Cheap aviators. And that smirk, the kind that told me everything I needed to know. Afternoon, he said, chin up like I was already under arrest. You the new owner of Parcel 42C? Unless this is a reverse sting, I said, wiping grease off my hands. Yeah, that's me. He didn't laugh. Just stared at the '69 Mustang parked beside me, like it was a war crime. Now, look, I get it. The car's not subtle. Cherry red, matte black stripes, engine tuned to rattle teeth at idle. I didn't build it to be polite. We've had a complaint, he said. Already? I raised an eyebrow. I haven't even finished my first box of moving tape. He didn't blink. It's about the engine. It exceeds acceptable decibel levels for residential zones. That's when I realized this wasn't about the car. It was about control. I looked at Greg, then at the Mustang, then back again. And you measured that with what? A hairdryer and a hunch. His jaw clenched. There are procedures. Guidelines. Article 5, Section 12. Greg. I interrupted, because of course his name was Greg. You walked onto my land waving a badge that looks like it came out of a cereal box, acting like I launched a missile test. We both know this isn't about decibels. He paused, calculating, then gave me a slow smile, one of those HOA specials that's 10% lips, 90% threat. We expect all residents to align with the standards of the neighborhood. There was the warning, dressed in fake politeness and policy jargon. And that's when Grandpa Roy stepped out of the barn. Now, Roy doesn't arrive places. He emerges like the final boss in the Clint Eastwood fever dream. 75, denim like armor, boots that walked through more wars than Greg had read about, rifle slung over one shoulder, cigar already lit. He eyed Greg like he was some kind of government termite. Well, Roy said, voice dry, one of them clipboard cowboys. Greg straightened up. And you are old, armed, and allergic to bureaucrats. Greg blinked. Roy took a slow step forward. You got a warrant, son? This isn't a police matter. Good, Roy said, cutting him off. 'Cause if it was, you'd be trespassing. Greg opened his mouth, then shut it, tried again, failed again. Eventually, he settled for muttering something about filing a report and walked off, but not before giving the Mustang one last look. Nice car, he said. Shame if it started racking up fines faster than you could fix them. He thought he had the upper hand, but he just woke up something he couldn't put back to sleep. Roy watched Greg disappear down the road, then turned to me, took a long drag off that cigar and muttered, That's HOA speak for, we're about to crawl up your ass with a clipboard. He wasn't wrong. The next few days, I kept things quiet, fixed a porch board, cleaned out the gutters, tuned the Mustang just enough to make Greg's drywall hum, but not enough to break a law. Roy, he camped on the porch like it was a sniper's perch, binoculars in one hand, thermos in the other. Something feels off, he said one evening. Not just the usual HOA nonsense. The way they move. It's not enforcement. It's scouting. I didn't want to believe him. But then the letter came. Plain white envelope. No return address. Just that HOA logo in the top corner, like a warning label. Inside, a typed citation. Pattern of noncompliant behavior. Below that, one line that made my stomach turn. Your continued resistance to integration with Covenant Green standards has been noted. Should further escalation be necessary, your property will be reviewed for corrective intervention. I read it twice. Roy read it once and laughed. Corrective intervention? He scoffed. That's either a threat or a colonoscopy. Either way, they picked the wrong damn guy. He was right, but it wasn't the letter that did it. It was what came with it. A photo, me in my garage, shirt off, leaning over the Mustang, shot from the tree lean, at an angle I know none of my cameras cover. A long lens. Someone had been watching me, on my land, uninvited, unseen. I checked every motion sensor log, every camera file. Nothing. Clean. Whatever they were using was either military grade or smart enough to know exactly where I couldn't see. That's when Roy stopped laughing. "This ain't code enforcement," he said. "This is recon." That night, Roy and I posted up on the porch. No conversation. Just two chairs, a pair of binoculars, his rifle, and the Mustang sitting under moonlight like bait. We didn't see anything, not at first. But just after 2 a.m., one of the southern tree line sensors pinged. Too fast for a deer. Too light for a bear. By the time I got out there, whatever was gone. Only thing left? Bent brush and a cigarette butt. Red lipstick stain on the filter. Roy crouched, sniffed. Menthol. Cheap. Probably Karen. Karen? He pointed down the street. Beige house. Blue shutters. Wind chimes that make you want to commit minor arson. That one. HOA president. I filed the name. Next morning, an older guy, Hank, wandered over from the lot 2 doors down. Retired electrician, jittery hands, eyes like a dog that had been kicked too many times. "You're the new guy, right?" he asked, scratching at his arm. "Yeah." He glanced toward the HOA trailer. "Don't poke the bear." "What bear?" He jerked his chin toward it again. "I had a metal shed once. They said it violated neighborhood character. Next week, my water got shut off. Took 6 weeks to get it back. They got ways, man." "What did you do?" He looked away. "Sold the place." Then he left. Roy didn't say much. Just took a long pull from his coffee and muttered, "They're making everyone too scared to stand." That night, we added 2 more floodlights, recalibrated trail sensors, moved the barn cams 10 feet higher. I went through every envelope I'd gotten since moving in. 3 more had no return address. All typed, all vague, all threats. I pinned them to the wall in the workshop, next to the photo of me in the garage. Then I opened the gun safe. Not because I was scared, because I knew what was coming next. The compliance review they warned me about didn't come with a clipboard. It came with 3 men. They didn't knock. Just rolled up in a matte black SUV. Climbed out like they were breaching compound. Not in uniform, but close. Black polos. Matching tactical gear. Sidearms half concealed like they couldn't decide if this was a house call or a mission. I was under the Mustang when I heard them. Boots on gravel, slow, in sync. Not casual. Not random. Roy, still on the porch, muttered one word. "Company." I slid out from under the car, grease on my hands, neck damp with sweat, and locked eyes with the biggest of them. Mirrored lenses, square jaw, attitude you can't teach, only inherit from bad decisions. "Afternoon," he said. "Flat. Cold. We're here for a compliance inspection." "No clipboard." I asked, wiping my hands. "Y'all forget the paperwork in your war wagon?" He didn't answer. Just flashed a badge. Cheap laminate tucked into a vest with more buckles than brains. "Routine review under HOA Statute 9C, he said. "Never heard of it." I replied, "And I've read the whole charter." Another step closer. I could smell his cologne. Synthetic, aggressive, like insecurity in a bottle. You're obligated to comply. "You got a name?" I asked. He hesitated. Just for a second, that was all I needed. "Yeah," I said. "Didn't think so." Behind me, Roy stood, slow, deliberate. Didn't speak. Just thumped his cane once against the porch deck. The rookie on the right twitched like someone rang his soul. "You boys always do compliance checks with sidearms and matching hats." Roy asked, "Silence. You're not enforcement." I said, "You're not even real." That's when the bearded one reached for his belt, and Roy reached for the planter. They didn't know it yet, but the game had changed. Roy didn't pull a trowel out of that planter. He pulled a shotgun. Sawed off, walnut grip, barrel worn like it had stories to tell, and none of them ended with mercy. The rookie froze, eyes wide, feet glued. Roy didn't flinch. Stepped off the porch like gravity didn't apply to him. "We're not escalating," he said, voice low and even. "We're just prepared." The leader's jaw locked. He looked from Roy to me, then back again. "This isn't over." "No," I said. "It's not." They backed off. Didn't run. Didn't turn their backs. Just retreated, slow, scanning. Radio silent. Their SUV pulled away without headlights, but I caught it. A fold-out drone bay on the back hatch. Thermal mount. Compact wings. This wasn't code enforcement. It was recon. That night we didn't sleep. Rewired trail cams with infrared overlays. Swapped motion sensors for pressure plates. I rigged a wireless repeater to bounce through dead IPs in Wyoming. Paranoia? Maybe. But paranoia is just preparedness with receipts. 3:17 a.m. The first drone came. High-pitched. Treetop height. Fast. Precise. No lights. I didn't shoot. Didn't shine a beam. Just watched. It looped once, twice. Then dropped something near the mailbox. After it zipped off, Roy and I walked down, boots, boxer shorts, shotgun slung like bedtime armor. The drop was small, wrapped in black tape. Inside, a photo. Roy, taken from the trees. Mid-cigar. Shotgun in lap. Framed like a wanted poster. He stared at it. Quiet. Long. "They're not guessing," he said. "They're marking." I didn't reply. Just turned toward the dark. Back in the garage. I found it under the Mustang. A magnetic tracker, short-range ping. They didn't just want to scare us. They wanted to know when we were gone. When the house was vulnerable. But they made one mistake. They didn't know we found it first. They thought the tracker would give them the upper hand. Instead, it handed us a location. I took that magnetic ping relay into the shop, hooked it to my signal reader, and started tracing. It bounced between 3 towers before settling, an old utility shed just outside the development, off a county road nobody had used in years. Roy stood behind me, arms crossed. "You gonna tell them we found it?" I smiled. "No, I'm gonna let them think it's still working." I fed it fake signals, morning commutes, grocery runs, nights out, loops that went nowhere. And while they tracked a ghost, we tracked them. That's when Roy found it, buried in the fine print. Covenant Green Holdings wasn't a homeowners association. It was a limited liability company, registered in Colorado, 6 months old. It owned 3 shell corps, including one called Lion Gate Tactical Solutions. I froze. Lion Gate had been blacklisted in 2018 after a conflict resolution failure in West Africa, which is military speak for they shot the wrong people and tried to cover it up. Now they were filing citations, surveilling residents, and sending fake compliance teams to my door. I didn't say much. Just plugged in a flash drive we'd pulled off one of the enforcers. Inside, Phase 5, property seizure, Maple Sector, 12 names, 12 parcels, all marked non-compliant. Each had surveillance logs, citation files, status, ready for reclamation. Mine was at the top. Roy's? 2 spots down. The goat rancher, the orchard couple, the family with the native plant lawn. This wasn't enforcement. This was asset stripping. They were bleeding people dry with fines, then seizing abandoned homes, flipping them through shell companies. This wasn't about noise complaints. It was a takeover. Roy lit a fresh cigar and muttered, "They want war? Let's give it to them." We gave them one last night to feel safe. Then we started laying the net. Trail cams got thermal overlays. Directional mics disguised in birdhouses and lawn gnomes. I rigged a signal jammer into a fake bird bath. Pressure alarms on the garden gate. Tripwire tech from my jungle days. The tracker in the Mustang? Still running. Fake loops through town. Gas stations, back again under a tarp. I wanted them confident. I wanted them wrong. That's when Hank came back. He looked different. Not scared anymore. Angry. "She fined me $3,000, he said. "Violation of community optics." What does that even mean? I asked. Means my hedges ain't symmetrical. Or my soul. Roy stepped out, knife in one hand, coffee in the other. You done folding? Hank nodded, then handed me a list. For more names. All fine, all furious, all in. That night, the air changed. No cicadas, no frogs. Even the wind felt like it was holding its breath. I stepped onto the porch at 1:48 a.m., thermos in one hand, rifle slung over my shoulder. That feeling behind the ribs. Not fear. Focus. Combat calm. Roy was already there. Boots laced, carbine across his lap, like it was listening. They're close, he said. He wasn't guessing. The trail sensors were quiet. Too quiet, which meant they were avoiding them. Low crawl. IR mapped. Flyover timed. I tapped the tablet. Cam feed blinked. 4 heat signatures. South Treeline. 200 yards. Crawling. 1 peeled off toward the barn. 3 for garage. Ranger, the goat, snorted inside like he knew something was off. Roy leaned forward. Flash bang or spotlight? Let him breach, I said. I want to see how far they think they can go. They didn't know it yet. But this land, it had teeth. The garage breach came at 2:07 a.m. Bolt cutters hit the side door. Sensor wire snapped, right where we wanted it to. It triggered a decoy alarm near the eaves. They shifted toward it, then missed a real trip. The flashbang inside the oil drum went off like thunder. Not lethal, but intimate. Metal screamed. One guy slipped on a fresh layer of grease and hit the floor like a drop safe. The second took a beanbag round the ribs from my 12 gauge, dropped to one knee gasping, like his lungs had imploded. Third tried to run. Didn't make it. Roy swept a leg with precision that would have made a Marine cry. Zip-tied him face down in the dirt, boot on his spine. Beardless, Roy muttered. They're sending rookies now. Fourth guy? Barn detail. I flanked wide while Roy held post. He was good, ducked the outer wire. But the inner line? Just enough tension to spring the feed chute overhead. A full bucket of hay and nails exploded across his back. Then Ranger, 130 pounds of hoof vengeance, charged. The guy screamed, tripped, smacked into the milking rack, and stayed down. I walked in slow, shotgun loose at my side. You good in there? I asked. He groaned. Cool, I said. Duct-taped his wrists and ankles, dragged him outside. For down. But the fifth was still out there. I checked thermal, crouched by the porch. Suppressor, tactical gloves. Not a rookie. He popped the kitchen screen and slipped in like a ghost. What he didn't expect. Pitch black pantry. And me. Shoulder check him into kin goods. Locked his wrist mid-draw. He was trained, but I was home. 30 seconds later, he was gagged, flex-cuffed, and face down on my tile. Game over. But that wasn't the real win. That came when I opened their gear bag and found my property transfer form, dated for tomorrow, already signed. The form was official. Stamped, signed, notarized, filed yesterday. They didn't come to scare us. They came to take us. Roy picked up one of their radios. Still live. A woman's voice filtered through the static. Has the package been retrieved? Roy crushed it under his boot. I scanned the document. Parcel 42C. My name scratched out. Covenant green, holdings printed over it like a death certificate. They'd already ripped me out of my own life. By sunrise, the county deputies finally showed. Young, tired, clueless. They logged it as a neighbor dispute and didn't ask a single real question. Didn't ID the men. Didn't bag the weapons. Just told us to keep things civil. Roy watched them drive off, face stone flat. They're protected, he said. I know, I replied. That's why we go around them. That afternoon, I built the war board. Workshop wall turned battleground. At the top, the transfer form. Below it, the drone photo. The tracker we pulled from the Mustang. The first citation Greg handed me like it meant something. Every war has a map. This was mine. I made a call to Mick, ex-unit, now drone pilot for paranoid billionaires. You want recon or a kill switch? He asked. Both, I said. He laughed. Copy that. Within hours, We had eyes on their off-site compound, a white box truck, for crates labeled property enforcement kits. Live feed caught Karen pacing the HOA trail on the phone, like she knew the walls were closing in, but it wasn't just her. A data drop revealed it all. Shell companies, falsified violations, falsified transfers. Every home they seized, flipped, resold, laundered through LLCs. We didn't leak it. We weaponized it. Sent it to every local news outlet, blogger, and sheriff with a grudge. By nightfall, the HOA website redirected to a DOJ holding page. Karen was in cuffs. Greg vanished. And Roy? He hasn't touched a weapon since. Just sits on the porch now, boots up, cigar lit, range of the goat by his side, watching the fence line. Just in case anyone ever forgets again, some land don't come easy. And some people, they don't leave.